Good morning, students. In last class, we have discussed about what is inter-process communication and what is socket. In this, we have discussed two types of communications. One is stream communication, that is TCP communication. Second one is datagram communication, that is UDP communication. Okay. First, we need to know what is. I need to remind you once again what is a socket. Okay. If you understand what is a socket, then it will be easy to understand the inter-process communication for us in this particular unit. Now, remembering once again how the socket will be like. The socket will be like it is a pair of an IP address and a port number. The socket is a pair of IP address and a port number. Okay, why this socket will be used? First question is why the socket will be used. Suppose for two processes, either these two processes may be running in a same system or different systems. For the communication of two processes running on same system or two different systems, each of them needs a socket. Each of them needs a socket. Here, the client port is often provided by a kernel of the operating system. When the client starts the communication with the server and it is freed, the communication is over. Okay, this is what the definition of socket. Now we are moving to the our topics of the today's class. Now here we are in the last class. We have discussed here in the last class this is the inter-process communication. In the inter-process communication, we have started what is the socket, and this is the diagram which represents the socket. Here see if client and server machines both needs to be communicate. Here they need a sockets. Here it is a client machine and it is a server machine. Client is having so many ports and one port is needed for communication. This is the, I already told you, first we need to establish a socket. Okay, socket is a combination of port number and IP address. This is the socket with which the client will interact with the server. Here is the internet addresses are mentioned here. After that, we have discussed about the UDP datagram communication. In this UDP datagram communication, here we have some issues. This is the diagram of which represents how the UDP peer-to-peer systems are to be going to be communicated. Here see, first it is a, as I told you, they need to establish a socket. Okay, this is a socket for UDP peer 1 system. This is a socket for UDP peer 2 system. Here we have three steps. One is first creating the communication endpoints, creating the communication endpoints. After that, send using destinations empirical port. Here see, to this socket, UDP system 1 can send messages to the receiver and able to receive from other process. It may be send messages to other process. It may receive messages from other process. Here also at in the UDP system we have send to or receive from. Either it may receive or it may send. Okay, once the sending and receiving messages will be completed, then the close means releasing the resources. Okay, this is the UDP stream communication. See here, in the main problem with this UDP stream communication is, as we know, UDP is dealing with datagrams. UDP is dealing with datagrams. It is wireless communication. Here, one problem with this particular type of communication is it may not follow send order. It it not follow the send order. It means the receiver, at the receiver side, the messages arrives not in the sending order. Why? Because they might travel in different routes and independently. Why? Because this is a datagram communication. Okay. Whereas in TCP communication, the packets or the data or messages arrives the destination within a sending order. This is what the one problem with this particular UDP data stream communication. And one more problem here is the receiving process needs to specify an array of bytes of a particular size in which to receive a message. The most size restriction is 8 kilobytes. Up to 8 kilobytes message at a time the receiver can able to receive from the sender. Here, as I told you, some non-blocking sends and blocking receives. Here, normally sockets normally provides non-blocking sends and blocking receives. Non-blocking sends and blocking receives. Here, why the process got blocked? I told you so many times. A process got blocked for either of any. It might wait for any resources, or it might wait for IO devices, input output operations. Here, some issues relating to the UDP data stream communication in inter-process communication is, the first one is message size. As I told you, the message size restriction is 8 kilobytes. Here, see, the receiving process needs to specify an array of bytes of a particular size in which to receive a message. The most size restriction here is 8 kilobytes. This is the first problem. The second one is timeouts. Here, timeout is nothing but if a sender transmits a message, the receiver must receive the message within a timeout limit. Okay, after the timeout, if the message arrives at the destination, even the receiver thought of it should not be delivered and informed to the sender. Here, coming to the problem with this UDP stream communication case, the method receives blocks until the datagram is received, unless a timeout has been set to the socket. See, if we not set the timeout, we can receive the datagram at any point of time if we not set the time limit. Next, third restriction is receive from any. Here, see that this is the very important point, highlighted point. See, the receive method does not specify an origin of messages. Here, there is no restriction. The receiver doesn't specify origin for messages. From particular system we can accept, from particular process we can accept, like that. There is no restriction will be specified the origin of messages. Instead of invocation gets a message addressed to its socket from origin. Here, this is the one problem. If there is no specification for the origin, about the origin, the receiver might get from any system. The receiver get messages from any system, from any process. This receive method returns the internet address and local port of the sender. What it will return? The receive method. Suppose a process got received a message from any other process. What it will return is, it will return the internet address and local port number of the sender. Okay, this is what the receive from any problem. Next one, blocking issue. See, as I told you, the sockets normally provide blocking and non-blocking sends. Here, for TCP communication, it will be like one type. For UDP type communication, it will be another type. See here, it will be how for UDP communication and how it will be for TCP communication. See here, the sockets normally provides non-blocking sends. Non-blocking sends means there is no non-blocking sends and blocking receives. Non-blocking send and blocking receives. Okay, for datagram communication. See, note this point, students. For the datagram communication, non-blocking sends and blocking receives for datagram communication. See the difference between a TCP stream communication, that is, here see, the sockets normally provides blocking sends, in which UDP, in UDP it is non-blocking sends. In TCP it provides blocking sends and blocking receiver. Blocking sends and blocking receiver. The only difference is at the sending side. In the UDP it is non-blocking send. Here in the TCP it is a blocking sends. Okay. Hope you understand. But the key point behind this is the TCP stream communication follows send order. The UDP communication does not follow the send order. The messages might arrive to the destination not in the send order. Okay, whatever the order it may be. Okay, this is about the blocking issue in UDP stream communication. The next one is failure model. Okay, see how this failure model suffers the UDP datagram. Okay, as we discussed some models in the first unit, one of that model is failure model. One of the model in that is failure model. Here, first we need to understand before going to this one is what is reliability. Here, the reliable transmission mainly deals with 2 points. One point is for integrity and second point is for validity. Note down, validity and integrity are the key properties in the reliable communication. Here, what is an integrity? As I told you previously, integrity means there is no change, there is no corruption, and there is no duplication in the transmitted data. See, integrity is nothing but there is no duplication and there is no corruption of bits during the transmission. Here, how can we calculate? How can we conclude whether the received information is not corrupted? The alternative to check whether the received information is correct or not is the highlighted part. Just see the students here. Checksum. Okay, as in computer networks, we discussed about checksum. Okay, this checksum will ensures whether the received data is modified during the transmission or not. Likewise, in this section also, the use of checksum ensures as there is a probability of message corruption. Okay, the checksum is the measure which concludes the message corruption. Okay, here the data user UDP datagram suffered from the following failures. See the failures in the failure model. First one is omission failure. Okay, students, you know, you might understand this one easily. As I told you in the first unit, what about the failure model? First type is omission failures. Here, the omission failure is nothing but, here see, omission is nothing but the messages got dropped occasionally. Okay, in between the transmission. Here, how? Here we are having two omission failures. One is send omission failure. One is receive omission failure. First, we will see. Listen, students. This is a dry part. You need to listen carefully. Send omission failure means, suppose we have a sender and receiver. Even any user is having a buffer. In that buffer, the sender is having. If a sender wants to, if I am a sender, you are a receiver. if I want to send a message to you, being a sender, my message comes to my outgoing buffer, okay. My outgoing buffer is not able to, suppose my outgoing buffer is full. So this type of omission failure is called as sending omission failure. Here the message got stuck at the sender only. Next, coming to the receiver omission failure, receiving omission failure, the message which I want to send you is what I kept in my outgoing queue. From that my outgoing queue to the transmission medium, it reaches to you. It needs to reaches to your incoming buffer. If your incoming buffer is full, that type of failure is called as receive omission failure. In the receive omission failure, the receiver incoming buffer is full. At the sending omission failure, the sender buffer will be full. Okay, these are the two type of omission failures. See, the next common issue what all we know is ordering issue. Here the messages will be delivered to the receiver not in the sending order. Okay, it might reach not as in sending order. Why? Because here the UDP means here the datagrams travel in the network independently in different routes. In different routes, it might reach to the destination at different timings. Okay, there is no ordering here. Next one, uses of UDP. Use of UDP. Here for some applications, it is acceptable to use the service is liable to occasional omission failures. See here, this point, just this highlighted point, the use of UDP. For some application, it is acceptable to use this service. Which type of service? UDP stream service. That liable to occasional omission failures. Those cases in which the omission failures are in a low rate, sending omission failure and receiving omission failure. Let's take an example. A DNS, domain name system, which looks up DNS name. Domain name system is containing domain names. Okay, those are called as DNS names in the internet, is implemented over UDP. Okay, and one more thing is this domain name system is implemented over UDP, and one more service all we know about, that is VoIP service, voice over internet protocol, voice over, also run on UDP. And the next one, the UDP datagrams are sometimes an attractive choice because they don't suffer from overheads associated with guarantee message delivery. See here, this is not having a overhead. Suppose I'm a sender, you are a receiver. There is no guarantee. There is no guarantee whether my message needs to receive delivered to you. Okay, there is no message guarantee. Okay, what are the applications of UDP? What I told you. First one is DNS, domain name system. In the domain name system, all the domain names in the internet is implemented over UDP. The second one is voice over IP. Okay, and the next one I told you, UDP datagrams are sometimes attractive choice because they do not suffer from overheads associated with guarantee message delivery. Okay, if you have a overhead of guarantee message delivery, that is overhead because we need to check whether the sent message is delivered to arrive to the destination or not. How can we conclude that whether the sent message is arrived to the destination or not? How can we conclude that? If you have an acknowledgement service, we can conclude if for the sent data, we need to get an acknowledgement within the given time interval. Otherwise, we can conclude it is not delivered. If we got the acknowledgement, if we conclude that it is received. Okay. See here, the overhead problems are the need to store state information at the source and destination, the transmission of extra messages, latency of the sender. See here, there are three main sources of overhead. What are those overheads? The highlighted points. Just see these highlighted points. These are the overheads. If we have a guaranteed data delivery, first one is we need to store state information at the source and destination. State information means the delivery state information. Okay, at the destination and the source, both places we need to store the information. Next one, the transmission of extra messages. Transmission of extra messages means if the message not got delivered within a time, if we are committed to guaranteed data delivery, if the message doesn't arrives the destination within a given time, we might retransmit the extra messages. Otherwise, latency for the sender. Latency is the time interval. Okay, sometimes the receiver might ask the sender to retransmit the message. Then the difference, the time difference is here is called as latency. And apart from that, the common internet application that uses UDP, the applications which we have seen so far is first one is a DNS, second one is VoIP, and etc. Here there are some common internet application that use UDP. See, first one, the application is Traceroute. Here, the Traceroute application print the route packets, take the network host. Print the route packets, take the network host. So that means here tracking the route, trace the route is nothing but tracking the route. Suppose in the UDP transmission, a datagram, suppose the original message is divided into some datagrams. Each datagram may travel in independent routes. Suppose a datagram A travels in a particular route and arrives to the destination. Here, the UDP will trace what datagram follows which route. Okay, that will be traced out. Second one, RIP. RIP means routing information protocol. Here, this routing information protocol is widely used protocol for managing router information. As we have seen in computer networks, each router will maintain a routing table. From source to destination, the packet or datagram, whatever the message, it needs to cross so many routers. Suppose it reaches to one router, here it will follow the routing table. According to the routing table, it will goes to the next further and so on and so on. It will reach to the destination. This is routing information protocol, RIP protocol. Next one, bootstrap protocol, BOOT. This is called as bootstrap protocol. This is this protocol is that lets a network user be automatically configured, and we have an operating system boot or initiated without user involvement. See, students, how many of you know about bootstrap protocol? Just read those sentences and you might understand. In computer networks also, I told you about bootstrap protocol. This is a network. I told you with respect to computer networks, first, it is a computer networking protocol. Okay, just compare with this, the definition here. Bootstrap protocol is a computer network protocol used in internet protocol networks. That will be used in internet protocol networks. The function is it will automatically assign an IP address to the network device from configurations from a configuration server. Hope you understand, students. Here, what is the responsibility of Bootstrap protocol? It will automatically configure. Same definition. This is also distributed system is also same as computer networks. It automatically assigns an IP address to the network. Automatically assigns an IP address to the network. Okay, this is also one of the see one of the application of UDP. See the here important point. Bootstrap application, Bootstrap protocol is the basis of more advanced network manager protocol, that is DHCP. Okay, this DHCP we have discussed in mobile computing, dynamic host configuration protocol. Okay, why in the wireless devices it will changes it with the host machine in the network, it will changes from location to location. Okay, that means we need to find out the exact IP address of the host is very difficult. In those cases, we have used DHCP, dynamic host routing protocol, host configuration protocol. Okay, that is one more application of UDP. Next one is DHCP. That is what this one. DHCP is a communication protocol that lets network administrators manage centrally and automate the assignment of IP addresses. See, the meaning it's dynamic host configuration protocol. This suppose let's take an example of mobile communication. The mobile device, due to its mobility, it will changes from networks periodically. Periodically, it will changes the networks. What we need to know the IP address of the location, the mobile node. We need to know the IP address. It is changing from place to place from periodical intervals. So DHCP responsibility is dynamically assigning the IP address to the host. Dynamically assigning the IP address to the host. Okay. Next, network time protocol. It is a protocol that is used to synchronize computer clock times in a network of computers. As I told you, the network of computers is having a global clock. Here in a distributed system, there is no global clock, but it needs to synchronize the computer local clock with the network of the computers. The synchronization is important. Next, trivial file transfer protocol, TFTP. Here, it is an internet software utility for transferring files where user authentication and directory visibility are not required. Okay, see here, if we use the trivial file transfer protocol, here it doesn't check the authentication and it doesn't check the visibility. Okay, when there is no authentication, this protocol will be used. Next one, SNMP. This protocol we know, simple network management protocol, and this will monitor the networking devices and their functions. Okay, why means this UDP provided simple network management protocol is manages the total monitoring. It will totally monitors the network and their functionalities. And the next one is domain name system. Here, the domain name system is two types. One is domain name systems and domain namespace. Two things are there. Both are abbreviation is domain DNS. One is domain namespace and second one is domain name system. Here we are discussing about domain name system. Is the way of internet domain. All the names are located and translated into internet protocol addresses. Suppose we have used a URL www.gmail.com. What it will do is here the DNS responsibility, domain name system responsibility is it will translate the URL. Very, very important point, students. The domain, this already I told you in computer networks. It will translate the URL into internet protocol address. Internet protocol address it will translate. www.gmail.com is translated to 10.1.1.1 like that. It will be translated like that. Next one, network file system. See, in the network file system, it is a client server application. NFS is a client server application that lets a computer user view and optionally store and update the file on a remote computer as though they were on the user's own computer. See here, the computer machine, suppose you and me are connected in a distributed fashion. If I want to store a particular data or a folder in your PC, in that case, what I need to have, if I am a server, you are a client. Client needs to store the one registry data at the server. Our server wants to store some information at the client machine. Okay, in this case, the network file system will be used. Next one, RPC. You know about RPC, remote procedural call. Here, with respect to, see here, with respect to distributed system, in a distributed computing, we are discussing about distributed systems, right? In a distributed computing, this remote procedural call is when a computer program has a procedure to execute in a different address space, which is coded as if there is normal procedural call, without programmer explicitly coding the details for the remote interaction. See here, it is a protocol that one program can use to request a service from a program located in other computer. Suppose if we are, you and me are two different machines running programs, running processes in two different machines, and one program can request a service from a program located in another computer. In that particular, but the thing is, those two systems must be connected in a network, and in this case, there are several RPC models. The first one is RPC model is distributed computing environment. Here in the distributed computing environment, we have the first one is open network computing. Here, the open network computing remote procedural call, sometimes referred as Sun RPC, was the one of the first commercial implementation of RPC. Just you need to understand why RPC is used. It is a protocol, remote procedural. RPC means remote procedural call or protocol that one program can use to request a service from another program located in another system. In this case, we are using the remote procedural call. Okay. In the tomorrow's class, we'll discuss about Java API, how the Java application programming interface, datagram communication in two classes. Okay.